There they are, from V8s to Volkswagens, Satrias, Subaru WRXs, and of course that slick Mitsubishi Lancer Evo 6, not to mention many, many other makes, Lancers, Magnas, they're all there, Honda. I can go on forever, but let's have a quick look at the categories for the GTP Showroom Showdown. Class A, high performance cars under the $150,000 mark, and there is plenty of scope in that, obviously. Class B, sports touring cars, but less than $80,000. This is showroom value, of course. Class C, V8 production cars under $50,000. And then Class D, the production touring cars of 6 cylinders and then 4 cylinders in Class E. Craig Denyer, a spectacular array of vehicles, and as the drivers pointed out, different strengths and weaknesses, which is what makes this so exciting.
Well, I guess, Billy, when you look at the lineup, 23 different models from 12 different manufacturers, limited modifications. All these cars are basically as you see them off the showroom floor. Last year, of course, the race was won by Australia's fastest production car, the HSV 300 kilowatt Commodore, in the hands of Ed Aiken and John Faulkner. A 2-hour race this year in the VIP Pet Food Showroom Showdown. Expected to run about 45, 48 laps, depending on safety cars. 1 compulsory pit stop and driver change. No one driver can do more than 80-minute stint.
Great thing about this race is that it is time-based, it's not lap limited. A 2-hour, brought to you by VIP Pet Foods, and a wide array of cars, as Craig mentioned. Some 23 different models, 12 different makes represented here.
I think what's so fantastic about this is that really this is what the Bathurst race was founded on, the battle of all the showroom makes. They really were standard production cars with just a few little safety improvements. So this is sort of going back to the Bathurst roots, if you like, all the different classes and different types of vehicles available to the Australian public. It's a great concept.
Pretty much the same sort of class structure too as what happened in the early 60s, early 70s too, Mark.
Cameron McConville has taken pole position, a stunning time at 2 minutes 29.7 in the HSV 300 kilowatt GTS Commodore, alongside the defending champions Ed Aiken and John Faulkner. Alexander and Woodbury on row 2, alongside Hughes and Quinn, who set the fastest time in the warm-up. Then it's King and Wilson, Peters and Shearman, Polides and Cunningham, Dean and Rubis.
Plenty of cars here. Big grid. Bow and Dunn in the Ford Mustang has been a bit troublesome throughout practice and qualifying. Boylan and Schumacher in the brilliant new BMW M3 Coupe. Morgan and Callahan Jr., Knight and Armand, Jacob and Kenny. Join up once again the Subaru WRX Loadsman and Lump, Jenner and O'Brien, and Lawrence and Gazzard.
Back to 17, Brock and Young, the Mitsubishi Lancer Evo 5, then the father-son combination, Ross Palmer, Darren Palmer, the Honda S2000 Sports, Falk and Lusty in the Subaru, Mitchell and Moore, the Lancer Evo 5, Haynes and Burke again in the Subaru, then Phillip and Gilden, the second fastest qualifier in the production car class, the Falcon AUXR8, Lay and Coleman, first of the Class B cars in the VW, with Russell and Cramp alongside in the BMW as well.
Keep in mind there are races going on within the race here. You'll notice those white boxes down the right-hand side of your screen. They indicate the classes the drivers are in. Davison and McCall from 25, Pilkington Parsons from 26. Then it's Rob Chadwick and Ian Love's son Warren, so father and son racing here from 27. Coon and Millett from 28, Cave and Gibbons, Gilbert McGuinness, Holgerson and Sugden, and Haysom and Cruck from position 32.
Osborne and Rowan, Carr and McIlroy start out at 34, 35 and 36, Cribben and Hill in the Toyota MR2, Hughes and Lawson in the BMW. Russell and Thomas, Best and Brethren start out of 37 and 38, rounding out the 40, Williams and Beninka, Hing and Pouton.
Final 5 in this 45-car field, Driscoll and Papagorge in the Holden Vectra, Doxey and Marshall Brewer, the former Oscar NASCAR driver in the Holden Vectra, Bates and Forshaw, the little Daihatsu Syrian GTV, Shepherd and Pedder in the Honda Integra Type Bar after an engine change following qualifying, and then Richard Davis and Walls in the HSV VX GTS 300 kilowatt Commodore right from the back of the field.
You may have noticed as we were going through the grid there some familiar names, particularly for tomorrow's V8 Supercar 1000. John Bauer campaigning in this one. Another one doing a double stint, if you like, in terms of their racing duties this weekend. Cameron McConville. Tim Lay is driving for the factory VW team, and he'll be teaming up tomorrow with Paul Wheel. John Faulkner in this one, and so too Rick Bates. Here are our onboard cameras for this one. Tony Quinn carrying one of them.
Hughes and Quinn joined up in the Evo 6 Mitsubishi, and we've got 4 cameras on board this car, so we've got every different angle of the action covered. Full 360-degree pan, close up the driver, rear shots inside the wheel arch. Here's the other car. the McConville Floyd 300 kilowatt HSV Commodore. I was doing some interesting comparisons with pole position times from history at Mount Panorama. This car's 2-minute 29 pole time is sort of pretty close to what Peter Brock did here to grab pole position back in 1974 when they debuted the new L34 Tirana. So for an absolutely stock standard car on road tyres, it's pretty impressive. And
it's only about 4.5 seconds slower than the fastest lap record around here for a GTP car, which was Neil Crompton in a Ferrari 355.
It's very impressive.
4.5 seconds slow, which is just amazing. 1.2 tenths of a second between the first top 5, 0.4 between first and second, then between second and third, 3 1,000ths of a second. That's between Aitken's car and the Woodbury Alexander Evo 5, which equates in track distance to about 41 millimetres.
Well, there you go.
So they're now putting longer bumper bars on both cars.
Yeah,
now.
I bet they are.
Key to this game, I guess, Craig, in some ways is going to be pit strategy. Talking to Cameron McConville earlier today, he says that he and Peter Floyd should be able to get through with just the one stop for tyres, brake pads and fuel.
Yeah, a lot of stories going around, I guess, pit lane like they always do, Rusty, in these kind of races about who's going to stop when. It'll all depend on the race pace. Most are saying the race will be run around 232s, 233s. At that pace, the Commodores will be marginal on fuel. If there are no safety cars, the Evo 5s will definitely have to pit at around 50-minute mark. The Subarus should be okay, and the Mustang with an 85-litre tank will have absolutely no problems. And of course, John Bowe sharing the Mustang with Chris Dunn back there in 9th spot.
Some dramas going on here for the Colin Osborne entered Toyota Celica.
Gee, they've had a shocker this weekend. They've had problems with their second car, driven by Darren Best, which hit the wall yesterday and had an 18-hour rebuild by the TAFE team overnight. This is the car he's sharing with John Roke and Colin Osborne coming down pit lane now. They had problems and were chasing parts for this car just prior to the start of this race, so I dare say he may well be starting from pit lane.
The only compulsory bit of pit activity today is for a driver change. No one driver can exceed 80 minutes behind the wheel. There's been 10 tyres made available for qualifying and the race. So there could be some fascinating tactics to unfold here. Great variety of engines and suspensions, cars and strategies. 45 starters the total. 2 hours is the race time. Pit window opens on lap 2. And the track distance, of course, 6.213 kilometres.
All in readiness for the VIP Pet Foods 2-hour Showroom Showdown. It's been a 3-hour in recent years, now reduced to a 2-hour sprint. Good start by the Japanese mates. Look at both of the Mitsubishi Evos launching off the line, the 4-wheel drive. They swallow up both the Commodores. Mark King coming for the run as well, so 3 Evos sneaking through to take the top 3 positions.
It's just amazing when you see the traction advantage of those turbo 4-wheel drive cars developed for international rallying. Look at the traction advantage as they get the power down off the line, sprinting away up Mountain Straight for the first time. They've left the rear-wheel drive Commodores in their wake.
Yeah, quite cool conditions here too, so that will suit the turbo cars this afternoon. It's Graham Alexander in the car he's sharing with Woodbury, who will lead. Tony Quinn slotting in second spot, Mark King third, so it's Evo 1, 2, 3 as they go up the mountain for the first time.
That's the beauty of a turbocharged car here as opposed to a naturally aspirated engine. Mount Panorama is about 830, 850 metres above sea level, so the air is thinner here than you'll find down at sea level. A turbocharged car develops tremendous torque. Considering a car that's very lightweight, that's a very effective power-to-weight combo to have at Mount Panorama.
Alexander is no spring chicken. He's 57 years of age, spent 14 years campaigning in the Australian Rally Championship. He's more at home on the dirt than he is the black stuff, but he switched to GTP racing a couple of years ago now, Craig, and has been really enjoying it.
Yeah, he was very quick too at Sandown until he had problems not so long ago at the Sandown 500, but he's been a good campaigner, and he likes to throw the car around too. His co-driver this weekend, John Woodbury, actually set the time, and he's really only done Formula V racing and a lot of kart racing. He's been to Bathurst a few times, but he was really the surprise in qualifying yesterday.
Fantastic shot that from the Channel 10 chopper, looking down on the mountain as they thunder down through the Victoria Bitter Dipper down toward the elbow. That's why they call it Mount Panorama. Magnificent facility. That narrow ribbon of bitumen that winds its way up and down the hill. It's a very daunting place. There's plenty of rookies at Mount Panorama this weekend.
We may have caught a quick shot of the fabulous BMW M3 Coupe being driven by Peter Boylan and Trevor Schumack just in behind the Mustang at the moment. We'll talk more about that car during the race. A A new debut for that car in the series, Craig.
Yeah, in fact, it's the first debut in the world for the M3 in this sort of racing. They had some trouble a couple of weeks ago at Sandown, but this weekend it's a lot more competitive, qualified inside the top 10. It's a beautiful car, just probably without question the most outstanding looking car in the field. And once they get this car sorted, with the power it's putting out for the weight the car's got, the size of the brakes, it's going to be an absolute rocket ship.
Right now, the cars that have taken Tommy Mäkinen to 4 World Rally Championship titles are leading the way. There's 3 Mitsubishi Lancer Evos. Alexander from Tony Quinn. Then it's Mark King, the defending champion, if you like, in that particular category. He's done exceptionally well and had a long, I guess, run with Evo Lancers. But it's Alexander from Quinn, and Quinn, he's been dropping a lot of things this year. He's been in Porsche Cup. This is a replay of the start. Now watch this. This is the view from Peter Floyd's Commodore. Watch as the Evos launch off the line there.
Yep, 4-wheel drive, traction. They get the turbos spinning up as they wait for the start. There's plenty of torque available.
Mark King coming through on the inside as well in the Delphi Evo 5.
Combine those two things together and look at the traction advantage off the line. If conditions stay cool, this is going to be ideally suited to these turbocharged four-wheel drive cars. The enemies of a turbo car is always heat, so excessive heat really does damage their performance. But when it's nice and cool, they have a big power advantage over the naturally aspirated cars, which are probably a little bit down on power because of the thinner air.
Can you believe the bad luck of the Osborne Roken Celica that was sitting on the grid, and they realised a wheel nut was sitting on the ground next to the tyre, and it sheared off one of the studs, and of course they're not allowed to continue with just 4 studs, so they've had to come in and try and replace it. And just have a look at the number, if you can, on the car, number 13. Yes, Colin Osborne says it normally is a lucky number for him, but not today. Literally, the wheels have fallen off their race plan before the race had even started.
Not anymore.
It sums up Colin Osborne's year by the sound of it too. He's an absolute shocker.
I just got to swap the numbers around. That's the only problem.
If you're the pit crew member, you'd be saying, wasn't me.
So it's a Mitsubishi 1, 2, 3 at the front. Graham Alexander, brilliant job out in front. Tony Quinn in second, Mark King in third. The first of the 300 kilowatt HSV Commodores is Peter Floyd. He's in fourth, the pole position man. And I should say that car was put on pole position. That was by his teammate Cameron McConville.
Tony Quinn has driven a variety of things this year. We started to touch on this before. Campaign in Porsche Cup at Lakeside not so long ago. Came second in behind Jimmy Richards at Targa Tasmania. Now in behind the Evo here, and he was in action at Sandown very recently, Craig, and a guy that's just so passionate about his motor racing.
Absolutely. Second to Jimmy Richards and Targa Tasmania is no slouch. In fact, he and Jimmy were leading the Sandown 500 until gearbox failure in the car. Oh, a bit of action starting to hot up here too. Looks like Ed Aitken under a bit of a threat from, I think it may well be the Steve Knight.
Yep.
Steve Knight Evo 6, and Brett Peters, first of the Subaru WRX STIs, just behind him.
Now, Brett Peters was actually considering not coming here to Bathurst this weekend, but he's been a late entry.
He has been. He's currently leading the Century Batteries Australian GT Production Car Championship, and with the next round at Indy only 3 weeks away, he was very mindful of that. But at the last minute, a deal was done with Mahir Al-Gadri and Scott Shearman to jump into this car, prepared by Rod Dawson. It's a superbly prepared car, will be very quick, as is their teammate, the Gary Dean Rob Rubis car this weekend as well.
Car in pit lane.
As the John Falk Ken Lusty car had turbo problems in the warm-up this morning.
Yeah, one of the biggest enemies of the Holden Special Vehicles cars has been their weight. I think it's something around 1,700
kilos.
1,700 kilos, and one wonders if HSV one day will respond to what a number of people have been calling out for, is that fabulous 300 kilowatt engine and a very lightweight stripper chassis. It's something that would be ideally suited to GTP competition.
Just looking at the lap times, you're expecting the race pace to be run at around the 232s, 233s. So it'll be interesting to see what happens in the first 2 or 3 laps and what the pace is.
Yeah, 2-minute 32 set on first flying lap for Graham Alexander. Pole position was a 2:29.71 set by Cameron McConville in the 300 kilowatt GDS. The Commodore's under attack here. Floyd not feeling too much heat. But look at Ed Aitken. He's got Japanese invasion behind him. Mitsubishi Evo right on his bumper, and right behind that one of the many Subaru WRX cars. So he's really feeling the heat at the moment.
Gee, the HSV GDSs are a remarkable car, aren't they? 300 kilowatts, you mentioned about their weight, but as an overall package, they're, I guess, basically the fastest sedan car in the world. world. They're just absolutely incredible.
In terms of four-door production cars, certainly not unlike the GDHO Phase 3 when it first raced here at Bathurst in 1971. It was then the fastest production car in the world, and the new HSV 300 kilowatt car has reclaimed that mantle and is absolutely superb. Not cheap though, about $96,000 on the road.
That's cheap for you though, isn't it?
Well, it looks alongside the Skoda in the garage, that's all I can say.
That's pocket money to you, Daniel.
Into the Auto Vitel chase once again. You're watching Ed Aiken from up high in our Channel 10 chopper. Steve Knight starting to harass him. This is the battle for fifth position. Just up the road in fourth is Peter Floyd, our pole sitter, who'll be handing over around about mid-race distance to Cameron McConville. And that'll be quite interesting. It could come down to a battle involving some of the heavyweights in terms of tomorrow's race, the V8 Supercar 1000. John Bowe yet to do his stint, McConville yet to do his, and of course, John Faulkner yet to jump behind the wheel.
Just sitting in behind there is the BMW M3 Coupe. Had a troublesome debut at Sandown Park. And they're still trying to sort out a few teething problems with that car, Craig.
Yes, got Dr. Anton Metzler just on the road in front of Peter Boylan in the car that he's going to share with Trevor Schumacher, but they have some minor problems with the car actually going into limp mode where it cuts the engine back to about 1500 k's. It's a sensor problem, and they believe that they've actually sorted it out, so hopefully the car's going to be running a lot faster in this race.
There's that sheared stud. I'd imagine that's Colin Osborne probably holding that right about now, is it? Yep. Not a happy camper. Not the way he wanted to start the 2-hour Showroom Showdown here at Mount Panorama. Graham Alexander leading the way from Tony Quinn, Mark King in third position, then it's Peter Floyd, Ed Aiken in fifth, the defending champion from Knight, Peters and Dean.
We've got a long way to go. Oren at Mount Panorama, back in just a moment.
We're back, the VIP Pet Foods Showroom Showdown, and those nippy four-wheel drive turbocharged Lancers are making mincemeat of the opposition right now. Just a reminder, 7 a.m. to 5 p.m, the big day, V8 Supercar 1000. But right now, this is where the action is, and the muscle cars in their wake are just starting to gain momentum.
A little bit of cloud cover above the track, but as a rule, it's been a magnificent day so far at Mount Panorama. Bear in mind too, the top 15 shootout coming your way a little later this afternoon, right here on Network 10 at the moment. The VIP Pet Foods Showroom Showdown. Watch this, a move in the family car class.
Daryl Kern down the inside of Alan Holgerson in the Camry V6. These two battled out qualifying too. In fact, there's very little between them, about 0.3 of a second in qualifying. So it looks like that battle could go all the way to the wire in this race.
Graham Alexander's just set fastest lap of the race so far, 2:32.36. He's just been pipped by Tony Quinn.
Yeah, in fact, by 1/100 of a second. So Quinn is now just on a neat second behind Alexander, the race leader.
So 2 minutes 32, mid to low, 2 minute 32 at the moment for the Mitsubishi Evos. Mark King running in the 2 minute 33s, and everyone behind them is out to the 34s. The Commodores, a full tank of gas early in these laps, perhaps not being able to match the pace of these turbocharged four-wheel drive cars.
Should welcome at this time a special guest to the microphone. Got a busy afternoon too. John Bowe. Haven't done your stint yet in the Mustang, but looking forward to it immensely, no doubt.
Yes, absolutely, Rusty. Chris Dunn's doing a good job. I mean, since the governing body of GT performance
Go on, get out of the way. Get out of the way early in the session.
Managed to handicap us out of existence. So I think he's done a very good job, because before this weekend he had never driven on the Mount Panorama circuit before, and I mean it's a pretty daunting place. So I'm quite impressed by the way he's going. He didn't get many laps in practice, and that's why we decided to let him start. So.
John, there were some plans to run two cars here this weekend, but that unfortunately hasn't panned out.
Well, we started the Prancing Horse Bud Racing guy started the practice with two cars, but there was an engine problem, and I mean there is a bit of a shortage of parts for these cars, unfortunately, because they're all sourced out of America, and because of the disasters that have befallen America in the last month or so, you know, there's all sorts of problems with supply. So you know, the build of the extra cars and things has been slower than it should have been.
So JB, just tell us about what the Ford Mustang Cobra-RA is. I mean, you've raced it a number of times this year. You've had a number of race victories in the car. It's built on the, I understand, based on the American Cobra-R, of which 300 were built worldwide, but the RA is an Australian delivery version of that car.
The RA actually, yes, is an Australian version of, because the Cobra-RA in America is a 5.4 litre quad cam 4-valve per cylinder, putting out about 320 odd kilowatts of power. This car is the same car, but it's a 4.6 litre version. So I mean, the decision was made to make it a 4.6 version for two reasons. Firstly, the 5.4 litre would have been way too fast for the class, and secondly, the supply of the 5.4 litre engines was more difficult than the 4.6, because the Cobra-R, or the normal Cobra, has a 4.6 litre engine. So I mean, it was quick straight away. It's a very good car, and I certainly understand the need for parity, because you know, you can't have one car running away. But unfortunately, this circuit is always going to favour Commodores. The Commodore drivers were the ones who were grizzling the most, and then they come up here, and in practice I was flat out, and the Commodores have now they've hired top-line drivers like John Faulkner and Cameron McConville, so they're actually 3 seconds a lap faster than we are. So I think the Holden boys have done a job on everyone, me included, which doesn't surprise me in the least, I've got to say.
We've got some dramas there for the brand new BMW. It looks as though it's stopped heading up Mountain Straight, so we'll try and find out what that is for you. In the interim, here's Grant.
Yeah, a problem for the Bryan car that's running around the car at the moment, the Falcon. A problem they've had all weekend is tyres delaminating. By that we're meaning the rubber peeling away from the steel belt. They're on thin ice. They're pushing the car, but not too hard, hoping that the tyres don't blow apart. The other option is they come in and put a smaller tyre on, which will slow the car down. But believe you me, that is not a situation you want to be in on this committed circuit.
Thanks, Grant. Just as you were talking there, it looked like Ed Aitken gave the Subaru a big serve under brakes coming into the chase. Not sure if his brakes might be getting a bit hot, or he's getting a bit aggressive. He gave Brent Peters a real bump there under brakes into the chase. So Ed Aitken.
Well, Brent Peters has now wrapped him up, so in fact Peters has gone forward into the top 5, the first of the Subarus. So it's still Alexander from Quinn, then Mark King, Evo's 1, 2 and 3, then Floyd first of the Commodores, then Peters first of the Subarus.
John, Chris Dunners. We'll just take a quick look at this replay first. This is Ed Aitken. Talk us through this one, John.
Well, I don't think I have to, mate. That's something you find in any Coles supermarket car park on any day of the week.
I was going to say to you about Chris Dunn, the Kiwi. He's been racing saloon cars, or I guess sports sedans, back in New Zealand. Has he settled into the job here pretty well?
Well, he has. I'm really impressed with him, actually, because
that's a good time.
Yeah, he has not been on the track before. He'd never seen it. Actually, the reason he's driving it is his dad, Alan, built the car. He works for Prancing Horse, and he worked incredible hours to do so. So it's sort of a payback, really, because Alan's a very nice guy and a very good mechanic. And Chris arrived over a couple of weeks ago, was going to drive it at Sandown, and then didn't because of various political problems. So he came up here, never seen Mount Panorama before, and he has had hardly any laps in it because it's been misbehaving something fierce. Only, you know, new car dilemmas more than anything, little fuel
just niggling
problems, and a clutch problem, and then we had a gearbox problem. So anyway, it looks like it's going very well now. So and he's, you know, he's consistent in his times, and he's doing a very good job. So we're not out of it yet, and the Prancing Horse team got some quite clever strategy thinkers down there. So if we end up with some pace cars and things, you know, we could still be in with this, and then we got no show of getting Proco to give us any help.
I mean, once upon a time it was always brakes and tyres with the excuse, but we've got a new one now, parity.
Well, yeah. I mean, I don't mind parity. I think it's a great thing, and it's been proven by the, you know, the standard of racing we've had this year. But you know, for instance, is 2 or 3 seconds a lap faster than Peter Floyd, or Pink Floyd, as Tony Raftis calls him.
Is he calling Pink Floyd?
Tony Raftis owns Prancing Horse Racing. He calls him Pink Floyd. I think that's a throwback to the music.
I think it's the fact he's had so many hits over the years.
You said that, not me.
Just watching.
Sorry.
No, you're right. Just watching some of the action here in Class B. Tim Lay leading the way in the VW Beetle. He's in 21st position outright and leading the class, and by a fairly comfortable margin too, by the looks of things.
Well, Tim Lay is I guess, one of my proteges, in the sense that I've always been interested in his career, and I've always been interested in a number of young guys' career, and he's a very good driver. He hustles this beetle along because it's not overly endowed with horsepower, and to see the mid-corner speed he manages in it, I think is a testament to his skills.
We were talking to Keys Wheel yesterday, because Tim will be teaming up with Paul Wheel tomorrow in the V8 Supercar 1000, and he said one of the great things they found about Tim is that he gives really good feedback. He's really good at working with the team and getting the best out of the car. Just a good young guy that's got a good head on his shoulders.
Well, he has, and he's a very personable and likeable young fella, and because he comes from single-seaters in Formula Fords, and you develop good feedback and all that sort of, in that sort of category.
Ross Palmer in the Honda S2000, straight down the inside of Trevor Haynes in the Yamaha STI. Roscoe sharing the drive with his son Darren. And of course, so you won this race for Roscoe back in, was it 1997 with Gary Walden?
97 with Gary Walden in Ross's Ferrari, yeah, and then Wayne Park set fire to it a couple of years later. Ross is having a ball there, look at this. He's a goer.
Yeah, it just came miles back there.
That little Honda is a quick little car, because compared to the Subaru's horsepower-wise, it's probably not there, but gee, it gets into the corners well, doesn't it?
Gives a big rev too, about 9,000 RPM, a little bit more. And
is that Ross or Darren driving?
No, I think you find that's Ross. Well, Ross was down to start the car, so he was going to hand up to Darren for the second stint.
If I say a few nice things to him, well, then I might get, another 1,000 revs back to the Mustang. Is that how it works?
All right, this is the VIP Pet Foods 2-hour showroom showdown here at Mount Panorama. Some great action going on right throughout all the classes, but at present it's Graham Alexander leading the way in a Mitsubishi Evo Lancer. Tony Quinn in behind him in a car, a slightly newer model car. And then it's Mark King, Peter Floyd, Peters, Aiken. The car being shared between Bow and Dunn. Dunn at the wheel at the moment in 7th. And then it's Polides and Cunningham rounding out the top 8.
All the way down to the first of the Class C cars, Loadsman and Luff. We'll be back at the mountain with the VIP Pet Food Showroom Showdown after this.
Less than half an hour into the VIP Pet Foods Showroom Showdown, a 2-hour race, remember. There's the clock ticking away at the top of your screen. And still about 0.8 of a second between Alexander and Quinn at the head of the field. But of course, pit stop strategy and fatigue are still to come into play.
Up over the top of the mountain, Peter Floyd in 4th position at the moment, trying to close the gap to the 3 Mitsubishi Evos that are leading this one. Just nothing between Alexander and Quinn at the lead. There's about an 8 or 9 second gap back to Mark King in 3rd. And then about another 16 seconds back to Floyd in 4th. So the Japanese turbo 4-wheel drive cars really running away with this in the opening laps.
Yeah, Floyd now coming under pressure from Brett Peters in the Subaru. Polides also making a move too in the Glenford's HSV. That's Peters on screen now for the back of Floyd's Commodore.
John, considering the weight and the power of those 300 kilowatt Commodores, would you expect them to have brake pad problems here?
No, not really. There's a range of endurance pads out made by a couple of manufacturers that are incredibly long-living. That 500k race I did recently in the Ferrari, and the pads in the Ferrari are only 20 mil wide, which is 10 mil less than a V8 supercar. They still had half the meat left on them after 500k, and I'm sure they're very expensive, as you can imagine, but I don't think there'll be a problem. The problems that the Holdens will encounter, if they encounter any, will be different gearbox problems.
Yeah, diff failure for the car at Sandown.
Yeah, but this circuit does suit them. I mean, it was made for them, and I guess it's the most important race of the year, so why wouldn't you give it to them?
Looks like Philip Polides starting to make some decent ground up here. But the point of interest is Ed Aiken. He seems to have dropped back. He's now in 10th position. So for the defending combination that won last year, not sure what's going on for Ed Aiken and John Faulkner. Now back to 10th in the My Accessory Commodore.
Polides has wrapped up Peters. Oh, Daryl Coon's in trouble. You drove with this man a couple of years ago, didn't you?
No, I drove with him last year. Actually, it's in the same car, and it's an XR6. And a very, very good car, particularly in the wet, which it was last year, as you know. But I think in the dry, obviously, to climb up the mountain, there's no substitute for cubic inches in that one.
Grant?
Just the answer on that Peter Boylan M3 car that's going around. He seems to have some sort of intermittent fault where the car just shuts down into limp mode, like a fail-safe system that slows the car down and won't let it go on too fast. They've had it all weekend, but it's a problem that usually only happens twice and then clears up. It has happened twice, so they're hoping it will now go away. And incidentally, that M3 is the fastest BMW that you can buy if you have a cool $130,000.
As long as it doesn't slip into limp mode, mate.
Well, that's right. In fact, and Eddie's wife said Peter Boylan's been in limp mode for years, so the problem carries on.
I'd sue you if you said that about me.
That's your annual joke, isn't it? You do it once a year.
That was a good one, though.
John, some big news yesterday to emerge from the Briggs Motorsport camp, the return of a sponsor that's been involved in V8 supercar racing before in Fisher and Paykel, and a big expansion of the John Briggs Motorsport team. Tell us a bit more about that.
Absolutely. There was an announcement that Briggs Motorsport, which runs my Cat racing car, will run 2 V8 supercars in the main series next year for Better Electrical and Fisher and Paykel. So it's a very good step for Briggs Motorsport, because we've been to now a single car team, and I think with the intensity of the competition and the, I guess, reliance upon electronic data supplied by the car, I think you know, stepping up to multiple cars is definitely the way to go for the future, and everybody's very excited about it. But of course it means a huge reorganisation, employing more people. You know, logistically, a big job, but it's the way to go for the future, I'm sure. And John Briggs is delighted about it as a Better Electrical.
Speaking of intense competition, John, look at this battle for the lead. There's nothing in it now. Tony Quinn, as we go on board, Quinn's Mitsubishi Evo. He's in pursuit of race leader Graham Alexander as they head up Mountain Straight once again.
I mean, these two guys have been, you know, or these two cars have been racing all year, but a lot of the tracks the Subarus have had favour, but you know, on this particular track, for some reason, they seem to have the legs on the Subarus, don't they?
Yeah, I think it's probably the all-round package, JB. I mean, good brakes on these cars. They've got the big Brembos,
yeah, very good
Subarus, 17-inch wheels, and probably a little bit more bulletproof around here in the gearbox area. They're geared differently. They sit on about 7,007 RPM at the second hump. They start to hit the rev limiter down the main straight. They're going through the chase, or just before the chase. They just touched 250 Ks, so they're a fast package.
May I mention here that my Mustang was doing 237 Ks through the chase, and as flat as a biscuit. So, as you may, we're not on that camera, but Ed Aiken has just come into the pit lane, so that's a shame for last year's winner. And we're on Dunlop Race Camp with... that's
a big one.
Davison and
Stuart McCall in the second of the factory VW Beetles.
Yeah, that could bring the pace car out, which will close the field up again.
Yeah, and the Victoria Bitter Dipper. Oh, there's a bit of... There's a fire there. Let's hope he gets out quickly.
Yeah, they can get out of the car okay, but the marshals are going to have a big job here. Look at that.
That's Stuart McCall, I think, isn't it, or not? I can't
We're just
tell
checking on who started the car.
Will Davison.
Will Davison, yeah. Will's the current Australian Formula 4 champion, another one of my little protégés. He's a terrific driver, so...
Not sure what happened to there.
Not a great introduction to the mount.
Factory Volkswagens, but there was a big fire. It looks like it's still on fire there. The marshals
big
got to jump onto that. They want to get out there on the other side of the car. I know they're probably reluctant to get out there because the cars are still coming past under full yellow flag conditions, but they need a lot more foam. They're going to get that one out before it turns into a lump of charcoal.
That's just before the dipper.
Yep.
And I don't know, that's obviously the fuel tank that's gone up, because the engine in that Beetle's in the front, so...
They've got to get around the other side of the car. You can see that's the source of the fire.
I think we're going to see a pace car here. You'd have to. The pace car's still in the pit lane, though.
Need some more firepower here. The marshals arriving on the scene. Put some more foam on it. We hear the safety car has joined the track, so...
They really,
got a very serious situation now here with this fire. That car severely damaged.
Car that qualified third in its Class 2, pole position for the VW team with the Tim Lane, Matt Coleman car. This was the two young guns, Stuart McCall, who's raced Formula 4. Will Davison, as you mentioned, JB, won this year's Australian Formula 4 Championship.
Well, they're taking a long time to get onto this.
The pace car is...
taking a long time to get onto those flames and to get the car there and get the extinguishers unloaded. So safety car is on the circuit.
A lot of guys starting now to come into pit lane, so this could change the picture. It'll be interesting to see what the lead drivers in Quinn and Alexander do, knowing that they're trying to get at least an hour before a fuel stop, because if they can't, they've got to pit with the only the 50-litre tank in the car in the 50-minute margin. So this is going to make it a very interesting window.
Well, the marshals have done a good job. It's out now, but that was a lot of fuel on board, obviously. Big flame out. And what a disappointment for young Will Davison. He dominated the Australian Formula Ford Championship this year. He's doing a bit of a guest drive in a sedan at Mount Panorama, and it hasn't worked out for him.
The disappointment for Will Davison is good news for the Mustang boys. It's just given them 40 seconds back from the leaders. Look at this.
Whoa.
There's something happened here. It's got something on the back tyres, or it's either
some sort of coolant problem. It's dropped a heap of liquid on the track.
Yeah, it has. It's either had a problem with an oil, big oil leak, or a coolant, like a radiator or something. But you know, I don't like to make excuses, but Michael Schumacher couldn't have saved that car.
Let's have a look at this from another angle. And he just flicks it back. Nowhere to go but the concrete wall. Crunch. 2 hits.
You've got to also remember these are front-wheel drive, and most people that drive rear-wheel drive cars like Formula Fords are not familiar with what to do in a front-wheel drive car when something like that happens.
And there's just no margin for error at that part of the circuit, is there, John?
Absolutely not. A few years ago in the DJR Falcon, the Shell car, I had a front upright brake, and I
look at this. It's caught back on fire, John. Sorry to interrupt, but we thought we had that fire out. Now they've got some hoses on the scene. Boy, there must be a lot of fuel there.
Yeah, bad luck for Greg Siddle and the team. They put together a very professional operation this year. Brad Leach and all the guys from VW.
Well, it's fantastic. It's a factory-supported car with factory personnel involved in it, and you know, that's what GT performance is always all about to a very large degree. I mean, our Bud Mustang is supported by the Ford Motor Company. It's the way to the future as far as production car racing, because it allows manufacturers that haven't got a V8 supercar to get out there and race and create some good feelings about their cars.
This is a very tricky situation here with the fire marshals on hand trying to put this fire out. Grant?
I'm here with Steve, not team manager of the of the Volkswagen Bugs. Will Davidson in the car. Was there any indication as to what might have happened there?
Yeah, Will just phoned in there was a problem, and then it happened very quickly, and something has failed.
It's a huge fire.
Yeah, Will was very comfortable in the car and was in a good position, and he was very happy prior to that. It must have split the fuel tank when it went in.
Thanks, Steve.
Steve Knight, one of the veterans of Australian motorsport. He's been on the scene, very heavily involved with Formula Ford racing, a number of different categories over the years.
They have poured a heap of foam on this car, and they still have not been able to put it out.
Well, I guess they can't stem the flow of fuel onto it, so I mean,
it actually looks like there's fires water onto it now.
Yeah, fire's something you don't see as much of as you used to, but I mean, it's always there. It's always a problem, and this just brings it home, I guess, doesn't it?
So, JB, what was your first touring car drive here at Mount Panorama?
This is my 16th visit in the 1,000k race. I've done a few 12-hour races in the meantime, but my first drive was 1985 with a Volvo 240 Turbo.
Sorry?
Yes, exactly.
Volvo 240 Turbo.
Actually,
no, let me say, as now, Volvo is now owned by the Ford Motor Company. It makes it very legitimate to have driven a Volvo.
This is the VIP Pet Foods 2-hour showroom showdown. On the mountain, the safety car is out. Let's recap where they stand. We'll go right through the field. Tony Quinn leading the way from Alexander. Then it's King, Floyd, Polides, Peters, Dean, and the combination of Bow and Dunn. Dunn at the wheel in position 8.
Knight, Armand, Morecambe and Callahan Jr. round out the top 10. Metchler and Moore, Jenner and O'Brien, Jacob and Kenny doing well, Brock and Young. First of the Class C cars is Loadsman and Love, and Palmer behind them.
Russell and Cramp, Class B, Lay and Coleman, Class B, Lawrence Gazzard, Haysom Cruck, Cave Gibbons, Aitken Faulkner, of course, well down now back in 23, Phillip and Hilden.
Leading the way at the moment, all the action. Tony Quinn, come back and join us in just a few moments.
The McCall Davison Beetle, that was not the worst of it, believe it or not. The worst was still to come, and they are struggling to stop this car from staying ablaze. Now, the fire came not long after this. The flames started to sprout. Luckily, the driver was out fairly quickly. There they go, and it is still a battle to keep this car reasonably safe out on the circuit.
Amazing, looking at that footage, Billy, you can see the rupturing of something. It might have been coolant or oil just poured onto the back tyres, and Will just had nowhere to go. Crunched into the concrete walls. Meanwhile, people taking the opportunity to pit under the safety car. A few of the lead cars have made their stops already.
Change of leader too, just on the last lap between Tony Quinn and Graham Alexander. So Quinn has taken the race lead, but then, of course, came in for a pit stop under the safety car.
This is, in fact,
Michael Brock.
Yep. You'll notice that they are only allowed, under the rules of the VIP Pet Foods 2-hour Showroom Showdown, to have 2 wheels off the deck at any given time during that pit stop.
Incidentally, Bob Hughes, I think, has jumped into that Tony Quinn car as well during that pit stop. So driver change there for the lead team. Just reminding you, the Ford Banner competition is on. And boy, if they put some work into it this year. Physical work as well. I think your arm would just about fall off by the end of the weekend with that performance. Paul Radisich there, they're paying tribute to him. And certainly, as we mentioned at the top of the program, Ford for the first time ever outnumbering Holden in the V8 Supercar 1000 as they hit the grid, or at least in terms of entries. There have been a couple dropped out. We'll fill you in on that tomorrow, but some exciting and nice headgear as well.
Yes.
And don't forget the prize for the winning banner creators, the XR8 Falcon, worth more than $46,000, so they can have lots of fun putting their foot to the floor. And then, of course, for the person who selects from home the winning banner, a trip for 2 to the Eclipse 500 in Adelaide. Now we're back in action. VIP Pet Foods Showroom Showdown.
Some smoke coming from the back of John Falk and Ken Lusty's car there. That was one of the early cars into pit lane. Talking of pit stops, the early race leader, Graham Alexander, coming in.
Well, these Mitsubishi Evos have really been setting the pace in the opening laps of this race. 16 laps gone. Keep in mind, this race is determined by time as opposed to distance. 2 hours is the maximum time this race can run.
These guys, Craig, opting for a fuel stop and a driver change, but no tyres at this time.
Yeah, John Woodbury, the Tasmanian, jumping in the car now to take over from Graham Alexander. Yes, you're right, no tyres. Probably not on a 4-wheel drive car around here in a 2-hour race. And I think they'd be fairly happy with the tyre and brake package of this car. Its only real weakness was the fact that it's got that small fuel tank of 50 litres, and that was always going to be a problem as to where the fuel window should fall and whether they would need to take a splash and dash at the end, of course, if there wasn't a safety car period.
It's been a pretty busy time for the drivers in the GTP ranks, because only a couple of weeks ago it was another endurance race, the re-emergence of the Sandown 500.
Great event too, and of course John Bauer claimed his 3rd Sandown 500 in the Ferrari 360, the prancing horse Ferrari, sharing the car with the UK businessman, now resident in Hong Kong, Tom Waring, which was a great drive, but also right down to the flag too. I think the gap between first and second to the end was about 2.6 tenths of a second, with Neil Bates and Steve Webb second in the Porsche GT3.
Here's former GTP champion Dom Beninka getting behind the wheel.
And I think that was a pillow that Dom threw in behind his back there, so judicious use of the linen there.
The hotel will be chasing that up, I think.
Grant?
The Hughes and Quinn car just came in for their first driver change, but Matt, you're the team manager here. Just tell us what there's some conjecture over the safety car.
Basically, there's been a safety car come out, one of the Volkswagens crashed up the top, and just before that safety car came out, we actually passed Alexander, who was first, so which would have put us in first place. And then when the safety car came out, he's waved us through, which has put us to the back of the field and picked up Alexander instead of us. So we're up at race control debating it right now to try and get our spot back.
And if Tony Quinn's on the case, you can definitely put forward that he's going to put a tough case to them.
Sorry?
Thank you.
Thanks.
Trouble is they won't be able to understand Tony Quinn with that Scottish accent of his.
Well, controversy here, and it's going to take a while to sort this out. Whenever we get irate drivers or team managers going up and talking to race control, they have to sit down calmly, work through their lap charts, make sure that what the team is claiming is true or false. So we could be under safety car conditions for quite a while yet.
Often the 10 network help with that sort of thing too, Mark, with video replays of different things. More action in the pits, and we've got some spilt fuel here. This is quite a dangerous scenario.
Wayne Russell, Steve Cramp, BMW 323, backed by the Scouting Association for the first time this weekend.
The fire marshals were very quickly onto that, which is good, but the field remained behind the safety car. And
interesting that, of course, we've also now had Alexander and Woodbury pit as well. So the safety car...
Someone looks as though they may have been waved past here. In fact, the safety car is waving all of them through by the looks of it.
Well, I wonder if they just won that argument. If Hughes has gone to the back of the field, they're probably going to wave...
Well, they've just waved him through, I think.
Yeah.
So there's Hughes now.
We're going to wave the whole field through.
And depending on whether, if Mark King has not pitted, they will pick up Mark King, who is now listed as being second on the road, hasn't taken a stop, so technically should be the race leader.
Got a brief glimpse of the little Daihatsu Syrian there moments ago too, being driven by Rick Bates this weekend, who'll be teaming up with Cameron McConville in the V8 Supercar 1000. Keep in mind too, folks, hope you're enjoying all of this afternoon's action, because the top 15 shootout is not too far away. Here's the car I was talking about.
This is the Rick Bates, Jeff Forshaw, Daihatsu Syrian GTVI, about 1,300 cc's. It's quite a small little car, always driven to the max by Rick Bates, but really it's a bit outclassed in Class E, the four-cylinder class. The Proton, with sort of 115 kilowatts, really is the car to beat.
Races within races here at the VIP Pet Foods 2-hour Showroom Showdown. Hughes and Quinn, there's been a driver change there. King and Wilson in second, but they are the effective race leaders at the moment. They've yet to pit. Morecambe and Callahan Jr., Floyd and McConville, Pilates and Cunningham, and it's Peters and Shearman, Dean and Rubis, Alexander and Woodbury round out the top 8.
There's plenty more action to come in the VIP Pet Foods Showroom Showdown at Mount Panorama. Join us after the break.
Well, we promised you colour on the mountain, pyrotechnics, pit stops and protests. That's how the 2-hour VIP Pet Foods Showroom Showdown is shaping up right now. This is what's left of that Volkswagen that caught fire after a seemingly minor mishap. But there is plenty more happening down in pit lane as well.
I just can't figure it out, Billy. We're just trying to do our sums on what's happened here with them waving Bob Hughes through. I don't know how he could be in front of Mark King if Mark King hasn't pitted.
Yes, a bit of conjecture at the moment about what's happened as far as this safety car situation is concerned. Peter Floyd now going into pit lane as well.
Cam McConville standing by for that pit stop, but the leaderboard at the moment not really a true representation of the way it should be. It's showing Hughes as your effective race leader, but he's a lap ahead of Mark King.
They waved him through. That means he's gone up. He will join the back of the queue, so he's effectively a lap in front of everyone else. I don't know how they've determined that.
Go figure.
So just coming up to the halfway point of the VIP Pet Food Showroom Showdown here at Mount Panorama. The leaderboard showing Hughes from Floyd, then Mark King, Dean, Pilates into the top 5 in the HSV. Peters first of, in fact, Dean first of the Subarus, then Peters, then Alexander and Woodbury, the early race leaders, showing back there at 7th spot.
Peter Floyd and Cam McConville sticking to their game plan, as he mentioned to us earlier in that Konica race. They were planning to do 1 hour, come in for the pit stop, and then do the second.
Not sure if they're doing a pad change there. Cam suggested they would be.
There's someone that's a welcome return to motor racing in Australia. Haven't seen him for some time. Charlie O'Brien there, getting out of the Nissan 200 SX.
Yeah, done something like 17 Bathurst, Charlie, and they wouldn't give him his licence back. He hasn't had a licence for 2 years, and he had to argue and argue and argue to be given the right to drive this weekend. Gold Coast developer now, a very successful career, particularly with Holden over the years, and nice to see him back in this car, which I believe he's also going to drive in the next round of the Century Batteries Championship at the Honda Indy 300 on the Gold Coast.
Charlie was like, he was sort of like the 70s version of Craig Lowes, wasn't he? Back in those days, he was a young guy in his 20s who was a star in the Tiranas.
The Gazard, Clyde Lawrence, Subaru Impreza also in for a pit stop.
So a lot of these guys taking advantage of the safety car situation to complete their pit stops. Grant Kenny out of the car we saw moments ago. Scotty Jacob in for what will probably be their final stint, the run to the flag in the Subaru WRX.
Kent Gilden, James Phillip, Coffee Ford, Falcon XR8 won the class here last year, then had the win taken away after a minor eligibility problem with the head of the car. Went on to win his class in the championship last year, though.
Talking about family involvement in motor racing, I guess, Craig, Kent Yulden in the VIP Pet Foods 2-hour Showroom Showdown. Young Luke Yulden campaigning for Larry Perkins' team.
Yeah, good to see father and son, and also uncle too. Brett Yulden normally drives here, drove at the Sandown 500 with John McElroy, but he's doing a stint in the on-track commentary this weekend, not in the race car, but the Philip Yulden car currently being shown as second in Class C, the V8 production car class, and it's the Ian Luff Scotty Loadsman Commodore 5.7 litre that's currently leading that class.
There could be a new hazard up there. If you look at the amount of water that's run down from where Will Davison collided in the Volkswagen Beetle, there's a lot of water lying on the track surface. Now that could be infected, if you like, with coolant, which is a very slippery surface. There could be oil, there could be all sorts of stuff in that.
And you can see how much heat's been generated in terms of the tarmac. What it's done is it's scorched quite heavily, the tarmac down there in the dipper as well.
It's been a tough induction, I guess, for the VW team into this championship, hasn't it? There was quite a heavy crash for Tim Lay at the Eastern Creek round of the championship, and now this.
Yeah, and of course they had another major one too at Adelaide at the start of the year when Timmy Lay went in. Matt Coleman's been off the track more times than on this year, and I think while there's no question that the people running the team are the ultimate in professionals, I think the competitiveness in Class B, well in all classes in GDP, is certainly not to be underestimated.
So riding with Bob Hughes, carrying one of our in-car cameras. There's still a fair bit of conjecture going on over this decision that they made. They waved him through, and effectively he's gained almost a lap on the rest of the field. So I'm not sure whether they're addressing that situation now in race control or what's going on. We're just as confused as you are at home.
You can bet there'll be a stack of team managers from other teams up there.
So Bob Hughes, who's comes from the south coast of New South Wales, runs a car dealership there. This car won its class, the high-performance class of the Sandown 500, with Rick Bates, and Bobby's looking pretty happy at this stage.
Let's go to Grant.
From surf to Subarus, Grant Kenny, welcome back to the mountain. I think you're, what, some 3 or 4 seconds quicker than last time you were here in the dry.
Yeah, it's been, actually, I think the surface is it feels like there's a lot more grip. And certainly our car's handling a lot different here. I mean, whilst it's sticky, I think it'd be just as happy on its roof. It's a couple of times I've nearly ended up on the lid, so got to be a little bit careful.
They're an agile, nippy, jumpy little car, aren't they, the WRX?
Yeah, we're having a lot of trouble through the dipper. It's just getting so much air through there. I don't know whether it's. I mean, I don't think we're going too quick. It's just a handling issue, but. You know, having to unwind so you don't roll over on the way through is not a good setup. But you know, I'm really enjoying driving here. It's a little bit frustrating in the sense that cars that we've been able to pass in straight line speed previously, we're obviously down a little bit on horsepower, and then you know, just having to change so long through the safety car then because if we sent Scott out any earlier. We would have had a fuel problem for the second half of the race. So that's a little bit frustrating in terms of the strategy, but hell of a lot of fun though. You've
just put Scotty Jacob in, and you came in 10th position. That's still a good position. What do you forecast from here? Yeah, look, Scott's you know, by all accounts up till now, you know, 3 or 4 seconds a lap quicker than I am. So although I tend to go a bit quicker in the race, you know, I would expect while I was doing 39s, he's probably going to do 37, 36s, and you know, we'll be you know, pretty happy to chase his way through the field. So, you know, we would have given up a lot of places just then in the pit stop, but hey, 10th was all right. We qualified 13th, and we had a little bit of a couple of problems along the way. We'll just see how it goes. Thanks, Grant. Thank you.
Philip Pilates in pit lane in the Holden Commodore, and he'll be swapping over to an expat Aussie in Neil Cunningham, who's been living in the UK more recently and campaigning in sports cars, Craig.
Yeah, very successful guy. Started his racing career back in 1985 here in Australia and raced V8s, Commodore V8s back then. Moved to the UK, finished 5th in last year's British GT Championship, driving a Viper, driving a Porsche GT2 this year. Has only raced at Bathurst once here, but said, look, I love this place. In fact, he thinks it's better than Spa, and is even now talking about getting his girlfriend to come back and live here and set up his own team in Australia. He's thoroughly enjoyed the weekend. They're running, or they've been shown on the time board as second at the moment. So Pilates is out of the car, Cunningham in, and of course Phil Pilates is such a short bloke. I think he actually has to stand on the seat to drive this car, so he'll hand over to Neil and away they'll go. They'll be a very competitive force, I would think, towards the end of this race.
Pretty slick stop there just a moment ago for Anton Metchler and Graham Moore. Great to see Graham Moore back in racing this weekend as well.
Yeah, another guy that's done well. This will be his 25th appearance at Bathurst. Raced XU1s back in pretty much the early 70s quite successfully at Amaru Park and here at Bathurst. Raced in the Williams Renault Super Tourer. In fact, that was his last appearance at Mount Panorama, and teamed up with Dr. Anton Metchler this year in the Mitsubishi Evo 5.
There's a bit of a disappointed-looking Ed Aiken, and not a lot of activity happening around the My Accessory HSV GDS. That's bad news.
Interesting, isn't it? Because Ed was one of the ones who was perhaps raising a question mark about the reliability of the car in warm conditions.
Here's John Faulkner.
John didn't even get a drive today.
No, in fact, the car that won the race last year in those horrific wet conditions. They read the strategy very, very well. They got over 1.5 hours out of the Commodore in fuel last year due to the safety cars under the wet conditions, and that enabled them to run to the flag. Scotty Anderson and Ross Armand were second in the Mitsubishi Evo 5 as we again look at that graphic damage to the VW Beetle RSI.
Yep.
Front-wheel drive and front-engine VW, 2.8-litre V6 is the Beetle-RSI. 400 of these are built worldwide in that configuration, and also a four-wheel drive twin-turbo configuration as well.
Will Davison will definitely bounce back from that, no doubt about it, although it's his first assault on the mountain. He's done so well this season, Mark, in the Formula 4 Championship, taking the title.
Yeah, he really was the dominant force. He was far and away the best team, best organised team and driver combination. Will Power certainly gave him a run for his money in the opening rounds, but there was just a couple of rounds there where he stumbled, and that allowed Will Davison to get the points break that he needed. But he's a most impressive young driver, and he's got his eyes set on a career in Europe.
Reminder too that it's a big afternoon of motorsport right here on Network 10. Still to come, the top 15 shootout. Who will have pole for tomorrow's V8 Supercar 1000? And then tomorrow, a full day of coverage from 7 in the morning until 5 in the afternoon. You won't miss a moment of the action in the V8 Supercar 1000. Grant?
Ed, we knew the GTS Commodores would have an Achilles heel. What was it in the end?
Well, with ours, it was certainly the gearbox. We lost fourth gear, and then we had an intermittent problem pulling second. We were basically racing with third and fifth gear, and occasionally just in the behind the pace car, then we're actually engaging first instead of third. So really, in the end, having blown the tyre, there was just no point trying to persevere. There was a major downside. With the boys felt with the car, the engine sort of could have blown up as a consequence of the gearbox seizing. We just thought it was the safest decision to park it. We couldn't be competitive, so that's it.
Bearing in mind that the car is identical to the one that McConville is in, is this something that is likely to cross over?
Look, I really don't know. We've all had intermittent problems with the gearboxes at various stages. I'm not quite certain actually whether we replaced the gearbox or not last night. It's not a fair bit of knowledge.
Hard luck, Ed, not this year.
Okay.
Lights out on the safety car, so we're set to resume racing here at Mount Panorama in the 2-hour Showroom Showdown. Will the car peel off this time around? Yes, indeed it does. So we'll try and find out what's going on for you in terms of this complication that Mark's mentioned about who effectively is first on the road. The timing monitor right now says Bob Hughes in the VIP Pet Foods entry, but your effective race leader is this man, Mark King, in the Delphi Mitsubishi Lancer Evo, sharing it this weekend with the boss of Pirelli Motorsport tyres here in Australia, Rod Wilson.
Yeah, quick combination, won their class here some years ago, and both drivers very evenly matched around Mount Panorama. Brett Peters now on the road in second in the car that he's going to be sharing with Scott Sherman, who's been driving a Ferrari this year in the Nations Cup Series. Chris Dunn also coming through. In fact, John Bowe has now taken over the Bud Stangs. They've taken a pit stop under safety car, and this will be very interesting to watch the Bud Stangs times. At 2:34.2, the fastest for the Stang. At 2:32 flat for the Bob Hughes Evo 5, that time set by Tony Quinn. So we'll watch JB in the car.
Nigel Greenway, our statistician, made a good point, and that safety car period really helped the Prancing Horse team, because this car, the Bud Mustang, was 52 seconds adrift of the race lead. Now everything's all bunched up again. You've got John Bowe behind the wheel. What a perfect scenario.
Made major changes to the suspension of this car overnight as well. In fact, this is a brand new car. The 99 car that JB's racing all year was scratched this weekend, withdrawn after engine failure. They bent some valves, and they pulled all the suspension out of JB's old car last night, put it into this car because he believed the suspension setup on the older car was actually better. So only the times, I guess, when you see the next lap or two really will tell.
Had some problems throughout the week. They lost fourth gear in the gearbox in practice. Then come qualifying, there was a clutch problem. They had fuel pressure problems in the warm-up this morning. So just the teething problems that John Bowe was talking about in the Mustang. Very, very fast car. They've just got to iron out a few of these problems to make it truly reliable. Yeah, glorious sounding car too. It is 4.6 litre quad cam, so twin overhead cam on both bank. Revs to about 6,500 RPM. Develops about 270, 280 kilowatts. It's got a 6-speed gearbox. Not a great gearbox. It's by JB standards, it's pretty average, and has played up a number of times during the championship season. It's got superb brakes on the car. Quite a well-balanced car as well, good aerodynamic package. So in terms of the specifications of the car, it really is the class of the field.
JB's just picked up a position on track there. He's actually moved into 5th outright. The guy he got around was Ian Luff, who's actually doing a great job in leading C-Class at the moment as well with Scotty Loadsman.
Yeah, and 5th outright. Can you believe that? In a standard under $50,000 5.7 litre Commodore SS. and he'll be handing over the car around to Scotty Loadsman pretty soon.
A lot of people might be asking the question this year, Craig, why aren't we seeing the fabulous cars like the Ferraris and the Lamborghinis that we tend to see in Nations Cup and the Porsches?
Well, as you know, Rusty, we broke Class A, which was the Ferraris, Lamborghinis, Vibers, out into their own series, Nations Cup, which has been quite successful in its own right and growing all the time. And we always thought, you know, series production for these sort of cars, the road-going cars around $150,000, are really what made this race famous, made names famous like Colin Bond, Peter Brock, Alan Moffat, Dick Johnson. And we always think there's a great synergy between where this race started and this category's relationship with the mountain. It really is showroom production racing for cars that the everyday motorist can afford, and then judge in those individual classes that are racing on how their road cars performing on the racetrack.
Guess too, safety would have been a serious consideration there, because the speed differential between, say, Rick Bates in a Daihatsu Sirian and a Ferrari would have been very, very substantial around a place like this.
And I guess the trigger for that was the accident we had some years ago with Wayne Park in the Ferrari, where he tags a slower car, nasty accident on top of the mountain, and that was really the trigger to break out the faster cars in their own series.
I've just been looking at the way these things have shaken out after this restart. There must have been a mistake there. If you look at the timing monitor, Bob Hughes is 2 minutes 22 seconds ahead of Mark King. Now, there must have been some major confusion during those safety car periods in the pit stop, and they decided to wave Hughes through, because he's effectively picked up a 2-minute 20 advantage over the rest of the competition.
I'd see if Grant can duck up to race control and just find out what the latest on that scenario is, and possibly have a word to Mark King and some of the teams that have been obviously disadvantaged by that.
Hugely disadvantaged by that, because behind Hughes it's Mark King, Brett Peters, John Bowe in third, and Woodbury, that was the Graham Alexander car, in fourth. But a 2-minute 20 advantage.
The team has actually determined what what actually happened was the pace car, the safety car, picked up the wrong vehicle, and instead of going a lap down, they went a lap up on everybody else. Now what they're now doing is they're sitting in with the stewards. It's still being discussed, and we won't see a result for another couple of minutes. But as you read it, is as it stands. Bob Hughes is a lap up on everybody else.
Gee, how do you fix that one? That's going to be difficult to do during the race, but problems too for Brett Peters. I think he's backed it off. In fact, he was challenging Mark King for the on-the-road race lead, and I'd say it looks like some kind of turbo failure problem with the Laser Eye Clinic WRX STI.
He's had such a good championship this season, Craig. Kicked it off with a brilliant start at Wakefield Park in southern New South Wales, but this car has developed some major turbo drama here, I'd say.
And he's had a great season today too. I mean, he's leading the Century Batteries Australian GT Production Championship by miles with 2 rounds to go. Very nearly didn't come to Bathurst. They did a last-minute deal and were very, very close, very competitive all weekend.
This is the Showroom Showdown. Hughes and Quinn lead the way from Mark King and Roddy Wilson. Graham Alexander in third, then it's John Bowe in fourth, Scott Loadsman and Ian Luff in fifth, Morecambe and Callahan Jr. sixth, Peters and Shearman, well, they're bound into pit lane with problems.
Still a lot more controversy to come in the VIP Pet Foods Showroom Showdown. Stick around, we'll be back after the break.
VIP Pet Foods Showroom Showdown, and you're looking not only at another broken vehicle, however, it is a window of opportunity for the race organisers, if they have decided to sort out the situation, unlap the rest of the field with regard to race leader Bob Hughes. It's a complicated situation, but suffice to say, if they decide to go with the protests, they will unlap the field.
Oh, look at this. Now we've had a moment at the top of the mountain. The Victoria bit of differ.
Dr. Richard Hing has put the car in. It's gone a little bit too hard into the dipper. Car that won the championship last year in the hands of Cosi Calazidis. Again, the replay, just the back stepped out.
That's interesting. You can see the oil flag was out, the slippery surface flag being held by the marshals.
And right where the incident that unfortunately took Will Davison out of the race happened as well.
Just paints his signature down the wall there. Another incident.
Charlie O'Brien, Shane Jenner car.
I think Shane Jenner at the wheel there, because Charlie O'Brien had completed his stint. They had a pit stop not so long ago, but there's been some unfortunate retirements in this race, and another one of them is Brett Peters, who's in pit lane. We'll get Grant to have a word to him very shortly. Ian Luff coming in the Scott Loadsman entry.
And the Hughes Quinn car, the controversial car that has now come in to take a pit stop again. Bob Hughes electing to stay in the car.
Be an interesting job for the officials figuring this one out.
Ian Luff and Scotty Loadsman. Amazing, this car, under $50,000. Time screen shows it running 4th outright and the Class C leader.
Ian's a very successful driving instructor in Sydney, and his son Warren is racing this weekend as well, so keeping the family tradition going, if you like.
Actually, after qualifying, they found out that the Ian Luff car was quite considerably overweight, and once they got all his gold chains off around his neck, it dropped 50 kilos.
So, heading in a state of flux at the moment. You can see there's been a bit of a spill there, the fire suppressant foam going down. But it's just an interesting situation here for the officials trying to figure out how to redress this problem. Bob Hughes given a 2-minute 20-second advantage as a result of confusion at the restart.
Should welcome to the commentary box at this time a special guest. John Bowe had to depart before in a pretty big hurry too when that safety car came out. He's back behind the wheel of the Bud Mustang, but someone who did the first stint, if you like, in one of the Subarus. We should welcome Grant Kenny.
G'day, mate. How you doing?
Very good. What's it like out there?
It's very exciting. You know, it has its frustrations, but it's just such a fun place to drive. I really love it out there.
You guys have had a pretty hard year this year, Grant. You and Scotty Jacob.
Mate, it hasn't been good, and you know, we've come here, you know, on virtually nothing, and you know, at the last minute, you know, we're able to get a couple of things together. But really, coming along with last year's car and the engine, we've really had done no work on it all, and finding that we're getting here and down on power, it's not a great place to be when you're down on power, and it's a bit frustrating too when you line up against cars that you know, in the past we've been able to at least match, but usually, you know, be able to just pull out and sneak past, perhaps down the mountain or back up the mountain, and you can't do it now. You
go back to last year, I mean, you guys led this race pretty much for 2/3 of the 3 hours under those atrocious conditions here last year.
Yeah, I know, that makes it very frustrating to start off from 13th, and then, you know, safety car comes out, you know, at the wrong time. We couldn't do a change early under safety car because Scott wouldn't have made it through on fuel, so we're going to be a little bit fuel critical, so we had to stay in until the field bunched up again. And I was a little bit uneasy about the decision to make the change then, but as it turned out we only dropped one place. I actually came in 10th, and Scott's back into 10th now after dropping back only to 14th. So yeah, he's typically quicker than me. I see he's only doing 2:39.5 there roughly, so not a lot faster at this stage. And in fact, when he jumped in the car, he got on the radio, he demanded I get on the radio because there's something's wrong with this car. It feels all funny. I think the only thing wrong with it is that I've been driving. But it's been a tough year for us, and just at the last minute, in fact, we were able to secure a little bit of support from the Yamaha guys that we compete against next door to us, and also from Cobra-RA. So we're very thankful for that, because at this stage of the game, every little bit helps, and we've got to just, you know, get the car on the circuit. And you know, we know we're down on power, but it's a case really of finishing a race like this, and there's plenty of top runners who have pulled out so far.
Class D leader on screen at the moment, Robert Chadwick in the Mitsubishi Electric Magna that he's sharing with young Warren Luff, doing a great job in Class D.
Warren had a good run too, Craig, at the recent Sandown 500.
Alan Holgerson in the Camry right behind him too. So you've got the two V6 front-wheel drive Magna and Camrys so far leading that class. Darryl Kuhn running 3rd in the XR6, but further back in the field.
We hear that race control are trying to figure out a way they can redress this situation. It's very difficult for them now. Bob Hughes having picked up a 2-minute 20-second advantage it was when the safety car came out last time, so how they're going to sort that one out? I think this wrangling's going to go on for quite a while, even when this race is finished.
There are a couple of unhappy drivers downstairs,
there
I can tell you.
I bet.
It didn't take long for that to start spreading around the pits.
You don't mind till you get a 2-minute 20-second advantage thrown in your lap. Grant?
Well, one of our main contenders who's now sitting on the sidelines, Brett Peters. Unfortunately, your Impreza is now out of the race, but after something like 9 starts in the 1000, it was the machinery that let you down.
Yeah, Grant, very disappointing. I've had so many people helping me out to get here. The guys from Radspeed, you know, normally the car is always bulletproof. They work so hard. My sponsors, you know, Laser Sight Centres supported me all year. Very disappointing. Looks like it just popped a turbo, but car was very strong. In fact, I'd only just said to the guys on the radio how well it was going, so there you go.
Do we see such a high rate of attrition with these turbo cars because so much of the lap is on full throttle?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, certainly I was conscious of that, and I was not trying to rev the car as hard as we normally do in the sprint rounds. But, you know, I got behind the Commodores there, and they're so fast in a straight line, I had to really keep pushing the car. But even so, yeah, it certainly is a strain on the Subaru.
But you still have the GT Performance Championship in your sights, so best of luck in that.
Thanks very much.
This is the 2-hour GTP Showroom Showdown safety car on the circuit. This is how it looks. Hughes and Quinn with a staggering advantage over Bow and Dunn. Then it's Alexander, Morgan and Callahan Jr., Floyd and McConville, our pole sitters, Dean and Rubis, Lawrence and Gazzard, and Scotty Jacob and Grant Kenny in position 8.
First of the Class B cars is the Russell Cramp BMW. First in Class C is Loadsman and Love, Haysom and Cruck round out the 16.
Back to 17, Palmer and Palmer in the Honda S2000, Phillip and Yulden, Lay and Coleman in the Beetle, King and Wilson, Pilkington, Parsons, Cave and Gibbons in the Honda Integra Type R, Gilbert, McGuinness, Boylan and Schumacher in the BMW M3.
Leading Class A, Williams and Bonica. Back with more on the other side of this. And plenty of frantic action. We're underway. The safety car has just peeled off. That's Grant Kenny's car, and he's looking a little nervous at the moment. Scotty Jacob forced wide. Now we hear from the officials during the course of that ad break there may be some form of, I guess, readdressment of this situation. Grant, can you shed some light on it?
Yeah, I certainly can, Rusty. They have just finished the meeting, and the determination is that this situation can't be readdressed. That means he will maintain the one-lap lead. But in an interesting twist, there is suggestion, and it's now been proved, that Tony Quinn actually passed a few cars under yellow flags or under the safety car condition, for which he will cop a stop-go penalty of possibly 30 seconds or so.
Well, keep an eye on that. You can see in the top left of your screen that John Bow has come in for a stop in the Bud Mustang.
Top up with fuel.
Hard to say whether that would be a scheduled stop, guys, because JB took over from Chris Dunn not that long ago.
And they've been under safety car for most of the time.
One would really think there's a problem with the car. 34 minutes yet to run in the VIP 2-hour Showroom Showdown from Mount Panorama. Back racing, and there's John Bow back out again in car number 9. Famous number was the same number that Alan Moffat carried on his Coca-Cola Trans Am Mustang when he first debuted here in Australia back in 1969.
Gee, the BMW, which had been struggling a little early on, seems to be right back on the pace at the moment. The Quirks refrigeration entry, there it is, over the top of Skyline.
Oh, it's busy down here as they plunge down toward the dipper.
That car's had a tremendous amount of straight line speed early in the race, and I was just about 1.5 rows back on the grid there, and got right up beside him going through turn 1 and then up the mountain. The thing just walked away. It really is a fast car in a straight line, but they are having some problems with the electronics in it.
This weekend, Grant, there's been a lot of discussion amongst the V8 camp about riding the cars off the curbs. I know that's something that the Subaru drivers tend to avoid.
Yeah, Subarus, when you do that, really get themselves terribly unbalanced. And in fact, to the point where, I don't know the way our car's set up, you could just as well roll the thing over, which happened to Scott back in Adelaide. But you know, it actually is a lot more forgiving here this time around, with the new surface and the track being a little bit higher. The ripple strips are not as severe.
Here's our race leader Bob Hughes. Just saw a shot there of the tremendous amount of wind buffeting on the screen, and you can see the windscreen wipers just getting lifted off there, just an indication of how fast these cars are.
Most of those cars down through that part of the circuit, through the kick at the end of the straight.
Here we go.
Take the penalty we just talked about, so it'll be interesting to see how long they hold Hughes in pit lane, currently being shown as the race leader. John Bow second, the Woodbury Alexander car third, then the McConville. Pink Floyd HSV.
I think Bow would still be second after that fuel stop. We'll have to see how things shake out when they come across the start-finish line. It's all very confusing at the moment with this debate over the Bob Hughes situation. But he's coming down pit lane now to serve a penalty.
I was just mentioning before that down the straight there, these cars, most of the lead cars here will be doing 250 to 260 kilometres an hour through that turn, and the wind here is really blowing quite strong today, and the side, the crosswind is really noticeable in the car.
Well, no 30-second penalty, so it was pretty much a stop-go.
Stop-go.
And Bob Hughes back out onto the track in the VIP Pet Foods Mitsubishi Evo 6. That's one of 2 Evo 6s in the field. Mark King driving an Evo 5, as is the Alexander Woodbury car, currently being shown second on the screen. So this was debuted at the start of the championship, the Clipsal 500 in Adelaide. Not really a lot of difference between the Evo 5 and the Evo 6 in specifications. Really where they mount the front number plates about it. It's about it, Grant.
Yeah.
incident earlier on. Farrell Coon in trouble again.
At the chase, same place as last time.
That's not a very nice place to be parked there, I wouldn't imagine.
Oh, yeah.
And it was the Tim Lay, Matt Coleman VW Beetle that just missed him.
Yeah, very, very vulnerable sitting there. But fortunately, it looks like he's got back into the battle. Bob Hughes, meanwhile, back into the action. Just wondering whether that 30-second penalty was served, Craig, by the slowing down and the speeding up as a result of the stop-go. Not quite sure. Not quite sure about a few official decisions this afternoon. A lot of confusion out there on the circuit.
Grant, you're a bloke who's enjoyed a lot of success in terms of your Ironman days, success in business in more recent time. How much of this is unfinished business for you, winning on the mountain?
Oh, I tell you what, once you come here, you really get a bug for it. It's a great circuit. It's incredibly challenging. There are so many different parts to the circuit. It really does leave you with so many different things to try and perfect. And really, that's what it's all about. It's about making every corner on the track, perfect in the way that you attack it to get the most out of the car. And I can see that it's the sort of thing that will take a long time. It's great fun, but it's an incredible challenge, and I absolutely love racing here.
Very interesting view there. We just saw a quick shot there of the front suspension of Bob Hughes' Mitsubishi Evo. There it is. And you can see quite clearly the four-wheel drive transmission, drive shafts going to all four wheels. These are the front wheels, of course. And you can see the amount of suspension movement as they come over these bumps, and the car pitches and rolls and squats.
Our onboard camera maintenance bloke's a little nervous right about now.
That's through the kick at the end of the straight there. That is a great corner, and one area walking down the straight in these four-wheel drive cars is quite incredible, the amount of sort of sidestepping that the car wants to do. There is really a lot of torque steer in it, and it's really sort of just crabbing its way all over the road, even when you'd think that it's a time to relax. There is a lot of attention needed to keep it going.
Pretty amazing too, Grant, when you consider that the moment we first captured that shot was down towards the chase, where the car's doing in excess of 200 kilometres an hour.
Yeah, well, coming over that hill, you really do get a little bit light in the seat. Actually, even though you're going a lot faster, not quite so much as you do going up this section of the mountain and over this hump here, we can actually tend to pick up 100 or 200 RPM through there as the car gets a little bit light, almost gets a little bit of wheel spin.
Gap now down to 21 seconds following that stop-go penalty. So Hughes and Quinn still being shown as a race leader, but Woodbury Alexander now within 21 seconds of the race lead. JB in the Mustang, the Bud Stang, third on the road. We still believe following that pit stop. Then McConville, and the first of the Subarus is Rob Rubis and Gary Dean in their WRX STI.
Just shows how far up the road John Bow was there, that he was able to get back into third place after that stop. We take more shots from the front of Bob Hughes' Mitsubishi. And you can have a look too at the amount of tyre deflection. The car gets loaded up through the left-hand corners. Very, very high maintained speeds around Mount Panorama, and it just doesn't look like a wheel that's turning at close to 200 kilometres an hour, certainly well in excess of 200 k's when they come down Conrod Straight.
Yeah, there's one part of the circuit where you really want the thing to work well too, is as you come across McPhillamene in a skyline. It's very nasty if you have a moment there.
The major engine failure at Eastern Creek was rebuilt in time for the Sandown 500. Went on to win its class there. All they've done between Sandown and Bathurst really has changed the spark plugs at all in the car, and it was running really, really fast times. It was only a second off the pole time set by Cameron McConville. So Bob Hughes has done a tremendous job around here. The car is very, very competitive.
You know, just listening to Brett Peters earlier on, and he was talking about the fact that, you know, he thought the thing was going really well. One of the things that we found is with the Subaru, to get the thing to go quick and be competitive, particularly against the V8s of both the Dodge and the Commodore, the Mustang and the Commodore, you really have got the car running at the absolute maximum.
Wound right up.
It really does make it difficult to get reliability out of it.
Looks like it's problems for the Clarion Proton Satria, driven by Nigel Williams, who's been racing it in the championship this year quite competitively.
Kozzy Kalizides is a name that we tend to associate with that particular class, Craig, but he's not here this weekend.
No, Kozzy's racing in Malaysia this weekend. I don't think he's having the best of luck either, but the car that he has raced in this series is the one that Dr. Heaton put into the dipper not so very long ago, so it's probably just as well Kozzy's out of the country.
Just over 27.5 minutes remaining in this 2-hour VIP Pet Foods Showroom Showdown. Been a lot of controversy over some decisions made, but our race leader, it's been decided there will be no readjustment of that situation. So now, but the lead is coming down. 18 seconds now between Woodbury and second place. John Bow's going with him. He's about 2 seconds behind our second place man. So, looks like Woodbury's starting to put in the big ones here and close in on Bob Hughes in the dying moments of this race.
Now you've got 4 different manufacturers too in the top 5, so there's not too much wrong with parity. Grant, what do you reckon? We've got 2 Evos leading, 1, 2.
Talk about the politician drumming up some support.
Then that really slow Mustang of John Bowes.
I call your attention to the qualifying times, Craig. I tell you what's interesting then, though, you look at the difference between Bob Hughes's Evo, and I think it was Mark King's Evo that he just went straight past in the run-up mountain straight there, which was just incredible to think that Kingy's car was not running as quick.
I know what they did. They actually leaned off King's car on the engine to try and get more fuel economy out of the car, and it's taken about 20 kilowatts out of the engine power, so they were hoping that leaning the car out, if there were no safety cars, may actually give them a dividend, but not so.
Watching the car in second place. This is the Graham Alexander Woodbury car. Boy, he's had trouble getting past that VW Beetle.
Matthew Coleman there, the meat and the sandwich.
Just got held up big time on the approach to the cutting, and then he had to squeeze through again.
Oh dear, is this great stuff. John Woodbury from Tasmania has only raced Formula Vs and karts, and really stunned everybody by a superb qualifying time yesterday, second fastest. He was just off the pole time by 4/10 of a second in this very car.
Not a big fan of the Mitsubishi's door handles, no doubt about that. He wants to wipe them all off. Got very close on that previous lap, but look at John Bow, just 2 seconds in arrears in the Budweiser Mustang.
So the gap between first and second down to 18 seconds now. So as we get down to pretty much the last 25 minutes of this race, it could be quite fascinating.
Once again, that car of Bob Hughes has just walked all over Dennis Gilbert's Evo, which has now just been passed by John Bow. So this is by far the quickest Evo out there.
Let's have a look at this.
Woodbury just goes for the gap, closes, and boom!
And keeps the boot into it.
I think that would have been a bit of a surprise for Matt Coleman to see that he made that much ground so quickly there.
So Hughes leading this one, 18.3 seconds up the road from Woodbury in second, and John Bow in the Budweiser Ford trying to track down the second place man. There's Bow. They've had a lot of mechanical problems with this car in the build-up to the race, and now the car running very, very well in race trim.
Yeah, debuted at Wakefield Park in the second round of this year's championship and had a race win and some problems in the first race, but really has been the class of the field. Not surprising when you look at the specifications of the car, again derived from the American Mustang Cobra-RA, of which 300 have been built worldwide, and this is the Australian delivered version of that car, of which 25 are going to be built and are currently being built by the Ford Motor Company.
Here's the other incident on that lap, just after he squeezed up the inside of Coleman's Golf. Oh!
And there was contact there and some body work was lost. Watch this. There you go. That's off the back right of Woodbury's car.
So the race continues on now with Bob Hughes, our race leader. 19.6 seconds the lead now, so he's opened up Woodbury a bit. Oh, he's hit the fence.
Just tagged the fence too.
Now, I wonder if that's done any damage to the car.
Be lucky if he didn't do any to the front end there, because he would have had a bit of lock on to try and avoid hitting the wall in the first place. So hopefully for him it'll keep running.
Well, we thank Grant Kenny for joining us here in commentary for the VIP Pet Foods Showroom Showdown. Hughes and Quinn leading the way, Alexander and Woodbury in second, Bow and Dunn doing a great job in third, then it's Floyd and McConville, Dean and Rubis, Polides Cunningham, Lawrence Gazzard and Morecambe and Callahan Jr.
First of the Class B cars is Russell and Cramp. First in Class C, Loadsman and Luff. More after this.
We're back at Mount Panorama, and the action really starting to hot up in the VIP Pet Foods Showroom Showdown. We have a new race leader. Here's a spin for Stevie Knight in the Mitsubishi Lancer, and it looks as though he's had trouble refiring that car or restarting it. That's down at, difficult to tell from that camera position, Murray's Corner by the looks of things.
It is.
I think you'll find it's Ross Armand actually behind the wheel.
Gee, he's gone right off there.
Down the escape road.
Escape road, yeah.
End of Conrod Straight, down at Cougar Turn. So I'm not sure whether that's going to bring out another safety car.
Very close battle out at the front of the field, 1.7 of a second. And Bob Hughes coming in car 15 for another stop-go penalty.
Yeah, he came in for a stop-go penalty because when he came in to do the initial one, the organisers and the officials weren't quite ready and hadn't quite determined how long they should hold him for. So because he came in too early and got them by surprise, they made him come in again for the second one, and that's what put Alexander in front. But the rumour of pit lane is that Alexander will also undergo a stop-go penalty. Let's see if we can confirm that for you for the same incident, would you believe?
Well, that's the battle on the track now for the outright race lead. It's Alexander with Woodbury behind the wheel, 1.7 the second between Woodbury and Bob Hughes now running second.
I was going to say the officials in a bit of a muddle how they were going to sort out that 2-minute, 20-second advantage. I think they've just figured out how to do it.
Absolutely. And John Bow in the bowl.
This is the contact here.
This is what happened to Knight.
And Ross Armand got squeezed up against the wall by, I think, Graham Moore in Evo 5.
So Knight, that's how he ended up down the escape road. He copped a big hit in the side.
Just shows you how fast the cars are going, even at that part of the track as they come under the Dunlop Bridge.
Very unusual place for an accident to. Let's have a look at this from another angle. Tangling as they come down into brakes into Cougar Turn or Murray's Corner. Both cars spearing off. It looks like they didn't manage to tackle anyone else in the process.
During the break, we've had a driver change in the commentary box. Grant Kenny out, Charlie O'Brien in, and we understand you two were going out at Hammer and Tong on track as well. Is that right?
Oh, Greg, we were having a lovely time out there. It was very, very friendly dicing through the kink there, 250 kilometres an hour side by side. Big black donuts on the sides of the car. The boys have got to paint the sides, I'm sure, on both the vehicles, but it's a lot of fun.
That's great.
Great to see you back in action, Charlie. What have you been doing since you've been away?
Just living up there in the beautiful Gold Coast, Mark. There's only so much for your takes. I thought, I'll come down and see if the track's still the same. But no, I've enjoyed being away for a few years, but you really do get a little itchy feet to come back and take up where we left off.
Fantastic to see you back.
Something has happened here because John Bow looks as though he's moved up into second position. The Woodbury VIP entry looks as though it slipped back to third. There it is. So don't know whether John Woodbury's had a moment at the top of the hill or he's losing pace. Bob Hughes is at the wheel. I stand corrected. Sorry, it's Bob Hughes rather. Woodbury is leading the way.
So I'd say Bobby Hughes has probably had a moment or maybe some sort of mechanical problem with the car. So the gap between Woodbury and Bow, 4.4 tenths of a second. Bob Hughes, 1.5 tenths of a second further back.
Haven't this team been through the ringer this afternoon?
I promised Tony Quinn a fairly painless weekend this weekend if he came up and sponsored the VIP Showroom Showdown. Tony, of course, the MD of VIP Pet Foods, and for this race it's been anything but that.
Charlie, I guess that damage down the right-hand side of the Hughes car is from that contact down at Murray's Corner where he's clipped the wall. It's just a place you can't afford to make a mistake around here.
Well, it's just one of those things. At that part, as you said, it's a very strange place to have an accident. I think it's just a clear case of somebody wasn't looking in their mirrors when there was a car up beside. And he's very lucky to actually come off and keep that car going.
16 seconds used to be. Now it's 4.4 seconds, the gap between John Bow and race leader John Woodbury. I wonder if Bow can find any more speed in the Budweiser Ford. We've got just over 15 minutes remaining in this 2-hour battle. So can the Budweiser Ford find enough speed to close the gap? We could have a thrilling finish.
Others inside the Maguires, Killershine top 10, McConville. First of the HSVs, Rubus in the Subaru, Cunningham in the Pilates HSV, then Gazard in the Subaru, Borkham in the HSV, Rod Wilson, Mark King in car number 1, the Evo 5, 9th outright, the Scotty Jacob Grant Kenny car just climbing into the top 10.
When you're in this situation, Charlie, and we're nearing the end of the race, and you're starting to feel all the sounds and things happening inside the car. How do you play the game?
Oh, look, these cars are actually very simple to drive. They're very quiet and smooth. I was very surprised getting into that little Nissan 200 SXR, how quiet it was coming down the straight through the corner. It's very smooth indeed.
And Charlie, you were talking a few years ago about setting up a V8 supercar team for yourself. What happened to that?
I got pushed into actually working, Mark, so I like the other idea better, but you get a little wiser when you get a little older, of course.
Loadsman of Love still leading Class C. James Phillip leading the first Ford, of course, in Class C as well.
So here comes John Woodbury. And he's leading the race by 4.4 seconds. And there's John Bow, headlights ablaze in the Budweiser Ford. A lot of people may have been expecting that car to maybe not make the finish with all the problems they had with it during the week. 3.4 seconds. He's brought it down 1 second, that lap.
Yeah, look at the lap time. 2:31.7 for John Bow.
John Bow is in pursuit. He's got the eyes and the lights on here, the veteran.
I may add, that's the fastest lap of the race.
How many times have we had an exciting finish in this GT production car race at Mount Panorama? Everyone's been a ripper. This one's looking just the same. John Bow, he's got the prey in his sights. 3.4 seconds. He's got the foot down.
Since this car arrived in the championship, it's traditionally been, I guess, a slow starter, Craig. It tends to get swallowed up by the four-wheel drive cars off the line, but it comes into its own in the latter stages of the race, and it's even, I guess, bucked to the trend at places like Wakefield Park, where it was not expected to dominate.
No, I think when you look at the basic specifications of the car, Rusty, I mean, it's a very, very good car for this kind of racing. It probably is over-engineered and over-spec'd for it, and that's why there has been somewhat of a parity debate. I mean, the philosophy within Pro Car, I guess, is the fact that we never want to stop a car from winning, but we certainly want to stop a car from dominating, because as has been proven in production car racing, that one car constantly winning will kill the category. Yeah. That's exactly what happened with the Nissan Skyline GTR many, many years ago. Now, the philosophy is, let's not stop the car from dominating, let's even up the competition. So for all the squealing and carrying on about parity, the fact that JB has just set fastest lap at a 2:31.7 and is only 3.4 seconds off the race lead, I think the argument stops right here somehow.
You've got an election coming up.
You wouldn't ask racing drivers for their opinion on parity decisions, I can guarantee you.
I actually did ask John the other day how was the Mustang, and he was complaining about, well, yeah, the ride height at 50 mil they raised it up. It really made the car a bucket of bolts to drive, and I can see now he's probably quite enjoying it.
Yeah, political gamesmanship going on whenever you have parity issues. Everyone arguing their point of view.
It's the most unenviable job, isn't it, trying to sort that sort of thing out.
Now let's have a look at the times as they come across the start-finish line this time around. 12.5 minutes remaining in this 2-hour battle. It was 3.4 seconds last time around. John Bow trying to close the gap to John Woodbury. And the Mitsubishi Evo thunder down into the chase. The Auto Vitel chase comes out of there. Nice clean lap so far from John Bow. Can he close the gap in the time remaining?
Gap between Bow and Hughes is now out to 4.2 seconds. That's between second and third. John Woodbury is leading the way. Look at the way that Bow is climbing the curbs in the Budweiser Mustang.
3.7 seconds is the gap, so Woodbury has responded. He's just done a 2:31.9. Bow's done a 2:32.3.
Black flag looks as though it was just shown to the Anton Metchler, and Graham Moore car, so we'll endeavour to find out what that was for. It may have been for that contact down at Murray's Corner.
I'd say that for sure. It was because of that contact.
Up Mountain Straight once again, John Bow.
Fastest lap of the race so far, set on lap 35, 2:31.74. John Bow digging deep. He got held up by traffic on that previous lap. This is always a problem toward the end when you're trying to close a gap. Under this enormous pressure, there's traffic everywhere. John Bow, enormously experienced and talented driver. This is a challenge he will relish.
Interesting that the Bob Hughes car at 2:34.7 last time around, so quite clearly that hit on the right-hand front has probably knocked the front geometry around somewhat.
Fantastic to see Mustangs back in action on Mount Panorama. I think the last time we saw them was in the International Group A era when Dick Johnson was running a car. The best placed effort in the great race was the third outright.
Oh no!
Your car, Charlie.
Oh, look out, he's going to hit something, is he? Oh.
That's not really the way to go, Shane. So
it's a shame too, you're running in 13th position at the time.
Big overcorrection there, went out over the sand trap, managed to keep it off the fence, I think.
Smoke coming from the back end of the Mustang as well.
Let's have a look at this on the replay.
It's a different angle, Charlie.
Yeah, that's he's very, very lucky not to hit the fence there.
Just while they put those sand traps, the sand traps all around the chase area.
Charlie, car with a lot of potential, a beautiful road car, but a bit under-tired. I think they only run sort of 6.5-inch rims on these things, and the intercooler, I understand, is a bit small, so you can get 1 or 2 good laps out of it. But then once the heat builds up, looks like Kuhn and Millett have done it again.
Could this be the safety car that John Bow's looking for? 10 minutes remaining in this one. It's Darryl Kuhn just coming out of the chase. That's exactly the place where Charlie's car went off just a moment ago.
Lucky that car wasn't there when Shane went off.
Well, it's that very situation which may influence the race director's decision to call another safety car out.
Charlie, it was a good point that Craig just made. I know the motoring magazines have raved about the arrival of the new Nissan 200SX, particularly as a rival to the Subaru WRX.
Well, yes, it needs a little bit of a performance gain with that Nissan. It's getting passed down the straight by the Mitsubishi Evos and the WRXs. So for the car to be up the front, I need to talk nicely to Craig and all the boys at Pro Car to get some a few extra gains.
A lot of people going off down at the chase.
Toward the end of the race, things are starting to get tired. You've got spongy brakes, tyres wearing out. Everyone's making mistakes, but this has been a great response by John Woodbury.
Unbelievable.
They're both swapping fastest laps of the race right toward the end. He's just beaten John Bow's fastest time at 2:30.78, so he's really responded to the Budweiser Ford Challenge.
Gee, we're getting down towards qualifying pace too when you consider that Cameron McConville took pole in a 2:29.7. So just a second off that mark now, John Woodbury. Bow in a bit of trouble here with some lap traffic, can't get through quick enough.
Yeah, pressure's on. He's just trying to find his way through the traffic, but this car's in all sorts of directions, all in his way. Sneaks up the inside through Reed Park. Boy, it's busy up on top of the hill.
Put yourself in JB's shoes, Charlie, at a time like this.
John will be driving his hardest. There won't be any holding back for John. He only knows one thing, that's to try to win. And the way he's driving this car now, he's got a little bit to go, maybe.
Grant?
Down here with Steve Cramp now. Often if you push a car too hard round here, they break, but you're pushing that car, you and Wayne Russell, to a Class B lead, and it's still motoring around perfectly.
Yeah, we've been pushing the car pretty hard all weekend. We were fastest on Thursday both sessions, and we were out-qualified by the Volkswagens on Friday by 300 of a second. So we've been pushing the car pretty hard, but it's hanging out there, and we're leading, I think, with about a 21-second buffer of the second Class B car, which is coincidentally one of the Volkswagens.
Okay, from here on in?
Here on in, Wayne's going to nurse it home. We've got about four laps to go. We're going to ease off a little bit and just try and bring it home for a Class B win.
You can't have a Beetle, beat you.
No. No, well, one unfortunately expired, but which was a bit of a shame because we were having a good dice at one stage. In the first stint, we were having a good dice with two cars, and let's hope that we can come through with a win.
Good luck to the flag.
Thanks, guys.
What a heart-stopping moment that was while Grant was just chatting away there. 7 minutes remaining, and John Bow.
This is Wayne Russell in the Class B Sports Touring Class BMW 323. Good to see the Scout Association have come on board to back this car for the weekend, along with Dynapack. And Hollywood Russell from Newcastle has been a great campaigner of GDP since he jumped into the category some years ago.
Dib, dib, dob.
We know where you grew up, didn't we?
Out of the Aussie Mail elbow onto Conrod straight. Excuse me, the battle for the lead now is pumped down to 5.1 seconds. So Woodbury has been able to respond to Bow's challenge. That last lap around, he was 1 second faster than the Budweiser Mustang. So Woodbury's doing a terrific job here. And Bow's throwing everything at him.
Perhaps Bow was held up by that Proton, and it cost him some lap time, if you like.
I'd say so. In fact, look at Bob Hughes. He's 8.5 tenths of a second behind Bow, but he did a 2:33.9 last time around, so he was 3 tenths of a second quicker than Bow. We go back to McConville. First of the Subaru, still Rob Rubis. Great drive brought down here by the Gabaldine team to be the team chef. They found out he couldn't cook, but he could drive, so they put him in the car.
Great shot there as John Bow crests the top of the mountain. Incredible climb, well suited to V8 cars traditionally, but the turbocharged rockets really enjoy these high altitudes as well.
On board with third position now, Bob Hughes in the beaten and battered VIP Pet Foods Mitsubishi Lancer. At one stage, this combination was leading the way.
Yeah, it's been a heck of an afternoon for Bob Hughes. Survived all sorts of dramas, particularly some very bad damage to the Lancer. He's hanging on in third place there. It'd be nice to get a podium finish. Cameron McConville is in fourth in the first of the HSV 300 kilowatt Commodores. Rubis, Wilson, Morecambe, Cunningham doing well in the top 10. Gazzard's in there too. And Graham Moore rounding out the top 10.
5-speed gearbox in the Mitsubishi Lancer Evo 6. It's well geared for rallying, so they actually work up through about 7,700 RPM by the time they get to the second hump, and the car starts to hit the rev limiter, so they have to feather off down the rest of the straight, of course, till they get to the chase.
Now jumping on board,
Cameron McConville.
Yep.
Peter Floyd's Commodore. Cameron's just off the podium at the moment in fourth place. He's about 1 minute and 14 seconds behind Bob Hughes in third, so Hughes looking pretty safe, limping at home. There's only 4.5 minutes remaining in the Enduro. It's been a good, strong performance from this crew. Went out of the Sandown 500 with mechanical failure. But the car looking much stronger here, Craig.
Absolutely, and Peter Floyd has done a good job too. Raced in the Nürburgring 24-hour race earlier this year with Ross Palmer and Mahir Al Gadri, and has really lifted his game. Came back with a vengeance, did a tremendous job in the I think the GMC 400 at Canberra, where the car was very, very competitive, and has done really a superb job this weekend. They did have diff problems with the car at the Sandown 500. They replaced the diff carrier bearings. They rebuilt the diff again last night, and we're really hoping they could cane this car to the finish today.
Basically, at the Sandown 500, there the car came in for its scheduled pit stop. Everything had been going absolutely spot on, but the diff overheated during the stop.
That's exactly what happened, and away he went. Of course, had to retire the car, not even completing a lap after the pit stop.
Just interesting watching those pedal shots from on board the HSV Commodore. The amount of clutch depression that Cameron has to use of that supercar. You just touch it with their foot. This one you've got to depress it fully and let it out, because you're running with basically road-going components. They cop a hell of a pounding under competition conditions. So you can see Cameron being very mechanically sympathetic to the big car.
Robert Chadwick in the Mitsubishi Magna, last the 2.5 litre V6.
3 minutes remaining in the VIP Pet Foods Showroom Showdown on the mountain. What a controversial race it's been in many ways. Right now, John Woodbury leading the way in the car that he shares with Graham Alexander. The gap 7 seconds, 7.6 in fact, to John Bow in the Budweiser Mustang. Then it's this team, Bob Hughes in the VIP Pet Foods entry, in fact, that he's sharing with Tony Quinn.
Charlie, we're going to see more of you in GT production next year, or what's your plans?
I've got to be careful how I answer that. I'd like to certainly be around a little bit more often than what I have been the last 4 years. So we'll just see what happens next year, and hopefully we'll be back.
We'd love to have you. It'd be great to see you back behind the wheel on a more permanent basis.
On board with Bob Hughes. The final laps winding down here. 7.6 seconds the gap between race leader John Woodbury and John Bow, so that's really pumped out. Woodbury responded magnificently to the Bow challenge. Actually,
look at this, the Polides entry. Oh, they come into the chase. No contact, thankfully, but it was exceptionally close.
Neil Cunningham, a passing move on Barry Morgan. So Cunningham, the UK sports car champ, has moved forward one spot into the top 7.
Good way of maintaining parity, Craig, might be to put gigantic rear-view mirrors on some of the cars.
Cunningham, so aggressive there, and I guess something that he's become accustomed to through sports car racing.
Interesting comment, Neil Cunningham, his very first race car was one that he purchased of me in about 19...
Are you showing your age here?
I was trying to be kind.
He's had a very successful career in the UK, so it's nice to see him back in Australia and competitive. His times have been good.
First time that he's seen Bathurst track, which is unusual.
He's just done a 2:32.04, which is his fastest lap for the race, which is good.
He's loved being back down under 2, hasn't he? Has spoken about how much he's missed Australia, and has even sort of talked about coming back and maybe spending some more time in this category, Craig.
Absolutely, just is in awe of this track and wants to come back and do some more, certainly.
50 seconds remain in this race. We are on our way home. This is the last lap of the 2-hour Showroom Showdown. Right now, John Woodbury on course to take it out with Graham Alexander, the former rally driver in a Mitsubishi Lancer. 23 different models, 12 different makes at the commencement of this 2-hour today. And right now it's Mitsubishi that are on course to take victory here today.
Well, looks like John Bow has really backed things off. Just watching his lap times there, he's dropping 2 or 3 seconds a lap now to Woodbury. So he's obviously settled for second position after trying as hard as he could to close the gap to the Mitsubishi Lancer. But no such luck. Woodbury did a tremendous job in responding to the challenge. And looks like he's going to take this one out for himself and Graham Alexander.
Yeah, good result. As we mentioned, they were so fast in qualifying, about 0.4 off the pole time, and everybody's saying who was John Woodbury, because he was the man that set the time in qualifying, and he hasn't had an enormous amount of experience, particularly in production cars, nor here at Bathurst.
Roddy Wilson in 6th position there in the Delphi entry, almost going to be lapped. He's trying to prevent that from happening at the end of the race, because this man, John Woodbury, is driving like a man possessed, even though he's only got 1 corner to go. He'll come down into Cougar Corner, or Murray's Corner, for the final time. And he and John Alexander, or Graham Alexander rather, will take out the 2-hour Showroom Showdown here on the mountain. Well done. And Mitsubishi wins it Delighted too, John Woodbury.
He's a happy boy.
Very happy indeed.
Good feeling, Charlie.
Great feeling to actually pass that flag.
And John Bow in the Bud Mustang, car number 9, will take second spot to take the checkered flag now. Well driven by JB, well driven by New Zealander Chris Dunn. Oh, and Hughes hits the fence.
Bob Hughes.
Hughes hits the fence on the last corner. No, in third spot. Can you believe it?
Within sight of the finish line, he could almost push it from there. Bob Hughes looks as though he's out of commission. McConville may finish on the podium. The gap is a minute. They're probably telling Hughes to get going.
You just never give in.
Oh dear, look at the damage to the car now.
He's still third. He's lifted across the line and held on to that final podium position. But that pristine car at the beginning of the day is battered and bruised now. Just look at it. We'll take a break here on the mountain. Woodbury and Graham Alexander are the winners. Come back and we'll wrap it up in just a few moments. There's the result. Win just ready.